Okay, we have got the primer down on this. It's gone down okay. Had to thin it a little bit. It's white one shot. It does thicken over time a little bit. So we've got it down, white primer, because we're going to paint in white. And I did consider whether I was doing white or off-white, but when you look at pictures of UN vehicles, they always appear to be very bright white. So I'm going to go with straight white, which is 1001 in the ICM paint range. So next job is to paint the white areas of this. And then my intention is to go in and hand paint the green because it's mainly in the arches and underneath. So it'll be interesting to see how good a finish we can do doing that. So next job, white paint. Okay, almost my favourite part of any build, strangely, is putting the decals on. I think it really brings the vehicle to life. So we're at that point now. We've painted it white. We've given it a gloss coat ready for the decals. I haven't painted the green yet, but all the decals are going on white areas, and I'm hand painting the green. And we'll talk more about that when we come to do it. So I can put these on now without any fear that they're going to get paint or anything on them. And then we can seal that again once the green's painted with a final varnish. And we're good to get going with the weathering. So let's crack on with the decals. So we're using the UN marking. So we've got these nice blue decals to go on, which is really lovely because they're going to look really great against the white, and I think they're the best decals on here, which is why I've ended up using the white in the end. So I tend to work on my instructions. I tend to work top left down to bottom right. So we'll do that, then that, and that way I know I've not missed anything. Less imperative on a vehicle when you've got fewer decals, but when you're working through a modern jet or something and you've got 500 stencils to put on, that becomes a little bit more important. So we can start putting these decals on, and the first one is decal 10. So these are Tamiya scissors. They're really quite good for this task. So that's going to be my first decal. So just one on the front face, and actually it will be on the turret. So we'll move the turret to the front and change its position so I can get to it nice and easy. In there. And these are all spares and can go in my spare decals tray, of which that's a growing mound of decals. Right, so we can get the first decal into soak, and while we do that we can get ourselves sorted with other things. Now the Airfix decals are cartograph, so they are very, very thin. So what I don't do is put microset down. You certainly need to do it with other brands, but not all. But I never do it on cartograph, because what that does is it starts softening it, and you're much more likely to rip the decal while you're trying to position it. So I tend to use microset on top where the decal is on a complete flat surface, and use microsol where it's on a contoured surface. That's the way I tend to work. So I am going to open up my microset because most of these are going on a flat surface. And that decal has sunk, interestingly. So it's not quite ready yet. So I'm just going to pop it in the water and put it on the side. And that water will continue to soak through the paper and the decal will release itself in a minute. And I tend to work with one in the soak while I'm working. So we're going to put this number in and let that start to soak. Now, if you leave them in too long, the decal will completely separate from the paper. So it's best practice really to, once you've soaked them for a bit, to put them on the side so that it stays on the paper. And you can see I can now move that with my thumb, so that is ready to be positioned. So this first one, I'm just going to move it up on the paper a little bit. So we've got an overhang. Just work that up so it's on the top edge. There we go, and that is the first decal on. I'm just going to get the excess water off, and then a dab of microset, what I'm saying, and we're just going to spread that on, and at the same time we're using the brush just to squeegee any air out and liquid from underneath the decal, and then we can just allow that to dry, and that should be all we need to do. So that's the first decal on the turret. There are other decals to put on the turret, but we'll do that in the order of the instructions because it's just helpful to keep me in the same direction. So we should be able to now take out our second decal and put our third one into soak. So, and that's my sort of decal routine, and you can see that one's now ready to go. So I'm going to push it over the edge, and this goes above that hatch there, just in of the corner by the looks of it. Okay, that's interesting. The decal appears to be bigger than is indicated on the instructions. There we go. I'm just going to squeegee the air out and then give the brush a dip in microset, get most of it off because it doesn't need much, and just paint that on. So on the instructions, the decal starts just inside of the corner there and finishes the same. So this appears to be slightly oversized somehow. I'm just worried about that top edge, so we're going to put some down. We might have to end up going over this with microsol because it's just on the curve of the vehicle there. Right, so let's get the next one out, and that's going to take us back to the turret. Right, okay, so we've got the Parachute Regiment logo to go on the back of the turret here. There we go. That looks straight to my eye. That should settle nicely. And then we are back to the vehicle and another number. This time it's going on the rear. So just going on that section there. Don't think that is straight. So just going to get under the decal. See if we can drop it down on this side. There we go. There we go, just position that between those little stowage hooks. Okay, so I'm just going to get my brush and work it against that center raised point. And again, we're just pushing the air out. Like so. Now I'm going to blot it. But I can see little shadows, which means we've not got that directly in. Let me get my magnifying glasses. Yeah. So I'm putting Microsol on my brush now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my tweezers just to push down and create that hard edge. And we're just gathering up the decal, so make sure it's square. There we go. I'm painting it with the Microsol. I knew this would be a difficult one. But importantly, we're making sure the decal is conforming to the edges as best we can. And then as the decal softens, the Microsol will work its magic and hopefully it'll sit okay. Right, that's got plenty on now, so hopefully that will sit okay. And whilst we're messing around with that, my other decal has left its paper, so let's just save that. Right, and then we've got a small decal that goes around on the other side of this vehicle. So that's going on our little front face there. Not sure why none of you mentioned it at the time, but I put this decal on, this first decal on, upside down. So I've just soaked it in water and was able to get my knife blade under a corner, and it's now on the right way round. In future, can you please tell me when I'm doing it? It'd be much more helpful. Thank you all. There we go. That could have made me look silly, couldn't it? And our last decal goes on just there like that. There we go, that is our decals done. So with our decals on now, the next thing we can do is start the detail painting. So basically what we need to do is paint the rest of it all up, give it a satin coat and do final assembly. Then we're ready for weathering. Now I'm probably gonna do weathering before I put the wheels on, and then the last thing we'll do is put the wheels on, most likely. We will want to build up the hatches and things before we do any weathering, so we need to finish painting those and install those as well. So it'll be a bit of painting and building as we go, which is just sort of my way of working, not everyone's. But we've finished with spray painting all of this now. So, but I'm going to leave the masking in until we come to do the final assembly. So it just helps for any accidents and stuff. It just helps prevent them. So we'll leave that in for now. So my next thing is to start the detail painting, and I think what we're going to do is start with detail painting of this, and we can start with the headlamps, which will then allow us to put the lenses in at a later stage. And we've got things like the caps to paint and these little locks here for the sand plates and what have you. So and we've got tools to paint, and then we can install them and that sort of thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the lamps. We've got 3 lamps to paint up, 2 and 1. So let's do the silver on the inside of the lamps. Okay, we've got more than just the big lamps doing the silver. We've also got these bottom little lamps as well. So there we go. Make sure we've got too much, which is always my way. And just going to put some water in the palette next to it, which I can use for thinning. So we'll just take a little dab of that. Obviously we can't use that water for anything else now. There we go. Something I always do is then wipe the paint off my brush, unload the brush, so that I only got the measured amount that I want on the tip of the bristles when I'm painting. I need my hand rest. There's no bulbs in these lamps, but I don't think you're going to see the back of the lamp particularly well anyway, because of the texturing of the lenses. I'm just painting the rim in as well, that the clear part will sit in, so that we've got an outer bezel that's the body colour, and then the inner bezel is the inner colour. Right, let's not forget this little lamp at the bottom. There we go. So that is those lamps done, and the only one left is this one. which is a spot lamp on the turret there. Okay, that is the lamps painted up. So that's our first painting task done. Now we've got options here. We can paint the rest of the lamp silver and then use clear colours, but they tend to make it look a little bit more like reflectors. So with the rest of the lamps, I'm going to go with deep orange for the indicators and wine red for the brake lamps at the back. So let's get them painted on. There we go. As soon as we start putting a splash of colour on, the whole thing starts coming to life. They will need a little gloss coat, those lenses, just to make them shine a little bit. That's our forward indicators done. Let's just do a second coat on these indicators at the back. There we go. Right, let's do the red tail lights now, whilst we're at the back anyway. So looking at the wine red, now it's in the palette, it does look a little bit too dark for the tail light. So I'm going to add a dash of blood red, which is the colour I'm going to use on the front in a minute anyway. So just going to get a separate brush and put a little dash of red in there. And I need that for the front, so we'll put some in there as well. We can just mix those two together, which will just lighten that red a little bit. Yeah, and then it's going on to white anyway, which will again lighten it all up. So I think I'm happy with that colour, so let's give it a go. Yeah, that looks about right now, I think. Okay, we'll let those dry for a sec, and now we can have a look at the red that we want to do on the front. Right, so we've got some red detailing to paint here at the front, so I'm just going to thin this paint down a little bit. I'm finding in the main about 50% is where you need to be thinning wise with ICM paint for brush painting. They say between 40 and 60. I reckon 50, so we're sort of agreeing, aren't we? Now the tricky bit is painting the sides. Now done. What we will do is, now that will already be dry or dry enough for me to put a second coat over. So we'll just do a second coat on the top surface, which will just deepen that red a little bit against that white primer. There we go. That's looking pretty smart. Right, we've got black caps and black rubber there. Two different blacks, so let's have a look at that. So for the caps, I'm going to use Life Colour Satin Black because it's such a nice colour for these caps, and it'll just look better than anything I've got in the ICM paints. So that's what we're going to do. So one of the things the instructions don't point out is that the little stops here and here on top of the turret are actually rubber. I suspected they were, and the Imperial War Museum has some photographs of the Ferret Mark II in white UN markings, and you can clearly see they stand out by a country mile that they are actually black. So I'm going to paint them the same rubber colour that I've painted the caps for the smoke charges. Whilst we've got that paint out, that makes sense to me. We'll do the rubber on the aerial base a different colour. So it will need two coats. That was my experience with the smoke discharges. There we go. So we'll just let that dry off, and then we'll come back and give it a second coat. Right, I am moving to painting the bronze green in next, and we've got quite a bit of this to do. We've got all the underside of the vehicle to do, the wheels to do. So yeah, we want to make sure we've got plenty. We've also got the little fire extinguisher, which is also bronze green, so we don't want to forget that. And then we've got later we'll use some bronze green to do a little bit of weathering on that as well. I'm expecting we're going to need 2 to 3 coats of the bronze green in places, but it is really quick drying the ICM paint. So that's just ordinary water. That's how we're going to thin it. Okay, that looks about right to me. So off we go. So with this first coat, I am not worried about direction of paint or anything like that, because as we build up the colour, it'll all even out. The first coat is always a little bit uneven in colour saturation. There's nothing you can do about that. It's just the way painting with a brush works. So carrying on with the bronze green, we've done the first coat under there. It looks scrappy, but it won't do when we've finished the process. And I'm turning my attention to the wheels, which we've primed in grey, because firstly it's better for the green actually, but we're going to put black down and stuff. So this primer, the grey primer, performs better than the white primer, strangely, even though it's the same brand. So we can brush paint this in, and we'll probably only need 2 coats. So you can see I've not put the hubs on yet. We'll do that last. You can see that I've painted them there though. There we go. And then we can take the whole wheel off its blue tack cocktail stick, and we can just paint in at the back, and we can afford to just liberally go up the edges there and make sure that we've got the paint covering everything, because we'll tidy it up when we put the tire colour down. So it doesn't matter if we go over the edge, because this paint's relatively thin anyway. So there we go, and the tire's raised off the ground, so you're not going to have any problems just plonking that down. So that's what we're doing. We're just getting stuck in with these wheels. Most of the pictures I've seen show the outside ring of nuts in red. I've seen one or two where people have renovated and sort of refurbished a vehicle, and they have the inside nuts painted red, but on all the official photographs it seems to be the outside ring of nuts that is red. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do outside ring of nuts red, and that'll be one of the last jobs before we weather. And that'll be a cocktail stick job. It's just a dab on each nut. Again, not covered off in the Airfix paint instructions. Right. There we go. Right, I'll crack on with that and come back to you when it's done. Okay, I've painted in my bronze green. You can see it's just drying off there in the wheels, and the decals have now dried, and we've got lovely. They've sat really well. They have gone down really well. I'm really pleased with them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give everything a satin varnish, and then we can start painting the final bits up and sticking them on and building it up as we go. And that'll just protect the decals as well, and get us to the point where we can start weathering as well as we go along. So we haven't finished the detail painting, but we can certainly get this satin varnish down. I'm going to use a polyurethane satin varnish for this with a number 4 needle. You can use that undiluted. I just give it a slight agitate. I don't shake it. I just give it a slight agitate and make sure it's nice and even. So let's get that sorted and through the airbrush. Then we can clean up the airbrush and put that away, because that will be the end of airbrushing on this particular model. So just put a little bit in there, and I need to put my mask on, so I'm gonna stop talking now, mask up, and we'll get this out over the line. In amongst all these little bits and pieces that we're painting up towards the end of the build is a couple of items, the shovel and the handle for the pick, which is separate to the pick head, which need to be painted with wooden handles. So I'm going to use light earth for the wood handle, and then we'll give it a darker wash, which should make that look quite authentic, I hope, at least. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to give that a coat of paint. Not used the light earth colour before, so this will be a first. And I need to find an appropriate brush. Right, so it reckons about 45 seconds worth of shaking for these paints. Problem is, I don't time it, so I don't know how long 45 seconds actually is. But it could be about that long, couldn't it? So yeah, that looks like a nice natural wood colour. I am trying to stay with the ICM paints as much as I can for this build, just to prove that you've got everything you need within that set of 80 paints. But I have to say, you are a little short of one or two things, and sometimes you just want a bit of variation between colours. So I've used the Vallejo silver on the wing mirrors because I want something that looks different to the silver that we've used for the lenses of the lamps, for example. So hopefully that is about right and we can get stuck in. So let's give that a go. Okay, that looks good for a base colour, and we'll be able to thin that down quite a bit more for a second coat, so I'm happy with that. Okay, that's the pick handle on. That looks pretty cool. Fire extinguisher can go on. Okay, that looks awesome because of the decal. That really lifts it up, that decal on there. Nice touch, that. Airfix, well done. So that's that. Now the other two bits we can't put on yet because they're the handles. What we can do though is we can put the wing mirrors on now. They still need a gloss coat to make them shine, but we will do that. We can do that in situ. So let's get those in. That's the glue in for that first one. And we're just gonna thread it through the gap, drop it down in place. Lovely, absolutely lovely. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but you can get it in clearly. So yeah, that's starting to look proper cool. Right, so let's have a think about some of these other bits as well. So we've got this with our bumps, rubber bumps that need to go on that stop. So we can glue that in place now. And what we need to do is make sure they are in contact. Yep, and they are. Fabulous. And then we have this one which drops down and sits on there. Right, so actually the hinge sits on top of these two little lumps here and here. There we go, and they rest on that bracket. Perfect. So that's our first hatches on there. Now then, that one goes there and should sit fully open, but I just want to see how well we can get to it if it's in place. And we can't really, so I need to do a little bit of weathering on that before we can put that one into place. So we can have a look at these jerry cans, however, so let's do that. Get the blue tack off it. So we've got a black one. We've still got some more work to do on that one. It needs to be a satin finish like plastic. Obviously, I want to make it look like a plastic can. Can a plastic can be can? And then we've got the white one we can put on. My gut feel is we can probably put those on as well because we can get to those for weathering. That can't go on until the tools are on. So we are getting there. We are nearly done bar the weather. So let me just have a look. What step does they go on? Here we go. So the black one goes on first and should go on with the handle facing backwards on there like so. So we can certainly put that on. Wonder what colour the straps would be. Are they leather? Are they more likely to be webbing, I would think. So I'm going to think that they're webbing, and maybe we will do them in green or something like that. It shows it as black, but then it shows it as white on the side, so the painting instructions are not helpful. That's starting to look the part, isn't it? Right, so these are the back ones, and my gut feel is not fully open. I think we're just going to lift the turret off a sec. Yeah, go like that, I think. So here goes. A little bit of glue in the crook of these hinges, and then a little bit on that leading edge there. So I've been looking at some reference pictures, and it would appear that the straps on these jerry cans are completely detachable. So it's two hooks and then a buckle in the middle, and they tend to be green or brown or so on. So I've got a couple of colours here that I'm gonna try out. I've got a green brown and a middle stone, both of which look quite plausible as webbing colours. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix them up a little bit and maybe do 3 of these and 1 of those, just to give it a little bit of interest and originality, and just make it feel like it's, you know, an actual vehicle and not quite so clinically correct. Sometimes if you do everything so uniform, it can look a little bit clinical, I think. So yeah, let's do that. So I'm gonna do the middle stone first. Well, I said I was going to paint 3 and then do one a different colour, and I've ended up doing all 4 the same colour. So on the Imperial War Museum's website, they have one of these white ferrets that you can look at from all angles. And the little box here is a first aid kit, has a little red cross on it, and I really like that idea. And I have these are old Verlinden dry rub decals. They're actually for German equipment, but as you can see, I've used some of them, but not all of them, and these are donkey's years old. But I thought it would be nice to put one of these little red crosses on the box, so that's what we're going to do. So we just need a little bit of tape just to keep it in position while we rub it. There we go. And I tend to use a pencil because that means I can see where I've rubbed, and it makes sure that you've got everything down and you don't miss a gap or anything. So off we go. There we have one red cross. So happy with that. That can go in there. We'll put the pencil back. Brilliant. So next job is to fit these hatches here, and I'm actually going to use super glue because I've had problems with these ones, which are still sort of drying and what have you. Part of the problem is the shape of the hooks means that actually the openings don't fully open without this disengaging. So there's only really a small amount of contact on the inside. So if you hook this in and you use the center of the hinge, it sort of faces down a little bit and it should be out fully. So I'm going to use a little bit of mediums. Actually, shall we use medium or shall we use thin? I think we'll use medium. Fabulous. Right, that's looking really good now. So just one hatch left to go on. Looks like our varnish is dry now, so we can move forward with weathering those. So that's our next step. So we're going to give the wood a little bit of a wash, these handles, and we're going to use MIG's Wash for Wood, which you've seen me use before on the channel. We used it quite a bit on the Tiger 1 diorama. And what I'm doing is I'm sort of just streaking it with this brush to give you an impression of wood grain. Okay, that looks good. So there we have it. That's the tools done. So we'll just wait for those to dry and then we can put that on. So my next job is actually to do some weathering on the main vehicle.